It was snowing outside. The house was glowing with Christmas lights. Laughter and music filled the air. But not for me, because on the night I was supposed to feel the most loved. My own family told me to sleep in the garage, and that was the moment I decided they would never treat me like this again. So I made one phone call, and what happened next? No one in that house will ever forget it. Before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're watching this video from. Enjoy the story. My name is Linda. I'm 62 years old, and all I wanted this Christmas was to feel like part of the family again, you see. After my husband passed away 3 years ago, everything changed. My son, Mark, became distant. My daughter, Jessica, started looking at me like I was some kind of burden. I tried to tell myself it was just stress, that they still loved me. But deep down, I knew things weren't the same. Still, when they invited me to spend Christmas Eve at their home, I thought maybe this is a chance to make things right. I baked cookies. I bought gifts for everyone, even little Emma, my granddaughter. I spent hours picking out the perfect presents, just to see their smiles. When I arrived, the house was beautiful, warm, glowing, full of life. For a moment, I felt hopeful, but that feeling didn't last long. Dinner was awkward. Mark barely spoke to me. Jessica plastered on a fake smile, but every time I tried to join a conversation, she changed the subject. Still, I smiled through it. I didn't want to ruin Christmas. But when night fell, and the guests started leaving, I asked the question that changed everything. Where should I sleep? Jessica's smile froze. She glanced at Mark, and then back at me. The guest room is, well, it's full, she said. Full, I frowned. With what? Oh, storage boxes, she said quickly. We didn't have time to clear it out. That's okay, I said, trying to sound cheerful. I can sleep on the couch, but Jessica's expression hardened. Actually, we need the couch for Emma. She's sleeping there tonight. I blinked. So, where should I? That's when she said it. The words that shattered whatever hope I had left. You can sleep in the garage. At first I thought I misheard her. The garage, she nodded, like it was the most normal thing in the world. It's clean. There's an air mattress in there. I stared at her. Jessica, it's below freezing outside. You'll have blankets, she said flatly. It's just for one night. I looked at my son, my last hope, but Mark, he didn't even meet my eyes. He just stood there, silent, like he agreed with her. And that was the moment I realized something. I didn't belong here. Not anymore, so I smiled. I nodded. I said, sure, the garage is fine, but inside. I was already planning what I was about to do next, because they thought they could treat me like garbage. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I walked into the garage with a smile on my face, carrying the single blanket Jessica tossed at me like she was throwing scraps to a dog. The air was icy. My breath came out in clouds. The smell of gasoline and dust filled the room. They didn't even bother to clear a proper space. Just an old air mattress shoved in a corner, surrounded by boxes. Merry Christmas, right? But I didn't cry, not anymore, because while they were laughing in the warmth of that glowing house, I was holding my phone, scrolling to a name I hadn't dialed in years. When the line connected, a deep voice answered, Linda. Hello, Richard, I said softly, my lips curling into the faintest smile. Richard, my late husband's best friend. A man who owed me everything. The man who had been managing my investments ever since my husband passed away and the man who knew exactly how much I was worth. "Linda," he said again, his tone urgent. "It's been a long time. Is everything okay?" I looked around the cold, dirty garage, then at the laughter spilling in from the living room window. "No, Richard," I said quietly. "It's not. I need you to do something for me." "Anything," he said without hesitation. I told him what I wanted, every detail, and by the time I ended the call, my heart wasn't heavy anymore. It was on fire. I lay on that freezing air mattress, staring at the ceiling, while the sound of clinking glasses and holiday cheer filled the night. They thought I was broken. They thought they had humiliated me. But what they didn't know was that I was about to burn their little world to the ground. The next morning, Jessica walked into the garage with a smug smile and a cup of coffee, like she was doing me a favor. "Merry Christmas," she said, placing it on a dusty shelf. "Sorry again about this. You understand, right? It's just space issues." I smiled back, sweet as sugar. "Oh, of course. I wouldn't want to inconvenience anyone." Her grin widened. She actually believed I was okay with this. She left, without another word, and I stood there, sipping the bitter coffee, feeling the warmth seep into my frozen hands. But soon, they'd be the ones shivering. Because what Jessica didn't know was that while she slept in her cozy bed, I signed papers in my mind papers that would change everything by evening. Richard had done his job, and I had a brand new plan. So when Mark and Jessica gathered around the table for Christmas dinner, all smiles and laughter, I joined them like nothing happened. I even handed out gifts, my voice cheerful, my heart ice cold. Jessica unwrapped a sparkling necklace. "Wow," she said, fake gushing. "Thanks, Linda." Mark got the watch he'd always wanted. He grinned, but his eyes didn't quite meet mine. And then came their turn. "My gift to you," I said softly, sliding to white envelopes across the table. Jessica opened hers first. Her smile froze. What is this?" Mark opened his and looked at me, his face pale. "Mum, this can't be right." I smiled, the sweetest smile I'd given in years. "Oh, it's right," I said softly. "It's the deed to this house, and the foreclosure notice." They both stared at me like I'd lost my mind. You can't do this," Jessica stammered. "This is, oh, you are home." "Not anymore," I said calmly. "You see, kids, I own this house. Paid for it years ago. You've just been living here because I allowed it." Mark's voice cracked. "Mum, please tell me this is a joke." "Oh, it's no joke," I said, leaning forward, my eyes like steel. "Because while you were laughing at me in the garage, I was signing everything over to someone else." Jessica's face turned white. "Someone else? Who?" I smiled wider. "Me." Their mouths opened, but no words came out. They didn't understand yet. "Pack your things," I said sweetly. "Merry Christmas." Jessica shot up from her chair so fast the wine glass toppled over, spilling red liquid across the white tablecloth like blood. "You can't do this," she screamed, her face twisted with rage. "This is our house." I sat there calmly, sipping my wine, while Mark's hands shook as he read the documents again and again, like somehow the words would change if he stared long enough. "This says the house is now under a new trust," he muttered. What does that even mean?" I leaned forward, smiling sweetly. "It means I own the house, and everything in it, legally, permanently." Effective as of this morning. Jessica slammed her fists on the table. You witch, you think you can just walk in here? And I cut her off with a laugh. A laugh so sharp it froze her mid-sentence. Oh, Jessica, I said softly, tilting my head. You think I called Richard just to transfer a deed? Her eyes widened, a flicker of fear flashing through her anger. What are you talking about? I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the polished floor. Then I reached into my purse and pulled out a stack of glossy photographs. One by one, I slid them across the table. Jessica's face drained of color. No, she whispered, her hands trembling as she picked them up. Photos of her with another man at a hotel. On dates, kissing, all time stamped over the last 6 months. Mark's jaw dropped. What is this? Jessica stammered, her voice breaking. It's not what it looks like. Oh, sweetheart, I cut in smoothly. It's exactly what it looks like. You didn't think I'd dig a little deeper when I saw how eager you were to shove me into a garage, did you? Jessica's eyes filled with panic. Mark, please, she's lying. She's trying to turn you against me. But Mark wasn't looking at her anymore. He was staring at me. Mum, he whispered hoarsely, you planned this. I smiled, my voice calm, steady. No, Mark, I didn't plan this. You did. When you let your wife treat me like dirt. When you stood there and said nothing. Tears filled his eyes. I didn't know. Yes, you did, I snapped, my voice cracking like a whip. You knew she hated me. You knew she wanted me gone. And you let it happen. Well, congratulations, you both got what you wanted. Jessica lunged at me, her face twisted with rage, but Mark grabbed her arm. Jessica, he said in a low, trembling voice, is it true? She froze. Her silence said everything. Mark let out a sound I'll never forget, sound like something inside him had shattered. I turned, heading toward the door. Where are you going? Jessica spat, her voice shaking. I looked over my shoulder, my eyes cold as ice. To celebrate Christmas, I said. In my house, the one you'll be out of by midnight. Jessica laughed bitterly, her voice shrill. You can't just kick us out like dogs. I smiled. Oh, I can, and I will. Then I opened the door and walked out into the snowy night, my heels crunching against the frozen ground dot behind me. Their voices exploded, shouts, curses, sobs, but I didn't look back, because I wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. I drove home through the snow in silence. The streets sparkled under the Christmas lights, and every house I passed seemed warm and happy. But behind me, in that perfect little house I once thought of as home, hell had broken loose, and that was just the beginning. By the time I arrived at my place, my phone was blowing up. 20 missed calls from Mark, 14 from Jessica, dozens of texts alternating between apologies, threats, and desperate pleas. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat by the fireplace, and waited, because I knew they weren't going to just roll over and leave, and I was ready for that at midnight. My prediction came true. The doorbell rang hard, then again, louder this time. I didn't move. Finally, a voice shouted through the door, Mark's voice. Mum, open the door. We need to talk. I walked over slowly, heels clicking on the hardwood floor, and opened the door just a crack. There they were, Mark and Jessica, standing in the snow, their faces twisted in anger and desperation. Jessica's mascara was smeared down her cheeks. Mark looked like he'd aged 10 years in one night. "Give us the house back," Jessica demanded, her voice sharp as glass. I smiled faintly. "Merry Christmas to you too." Mark stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Mum, please, don't. Do this. We'll figure something out. Just don't ruin everything." I tilted my head, studying them like they were strangers. "Ruin everything." I repeated softly. "No, Mark, I didn't ruin anything. I just reminded you who built everything you have." Jessica's eyes burned with rage. "You think you can control us forever? You think we're just going to let you throw us out like garbage?" I leaned closer, my smile cold. "Yes." That's when Jessica snapped. She shoved the door open so hard it slammed against the wall and stormed inside, her heels clacking on the floor like gunshots. "You're not taking everything from me," she screamed, her voice echoing through the house. Mark rushed in after her. "Jessica, stop." But it was too late. Jessica grabbed the wine glass from my table and hurled it against the wall. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. Then she spun toward me, her face twisted with pure fury. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" she spat. "Well, guess what? Mark told me everything. About your precious investments, about your accounts. I know where your money is, Linda, all of it." I froze, just for a second, and Jessica saw it. Her lips curled into a wicked smile. "Oh yeah," she hissed. "I know, and I swear if you don't give us the house back, I'll make sure you lose every last cent." She pulled something from her coat. Pocketer USB drive. She held it up between her fingers, smirking like she'd already won. "Recognize this?" She taunted. "You should. Because this is your entire financial life. I took it when you left the garage. One click, and it's gone." For the first time all night, Mark looked horrified. "Jessica," he shouted, "what are you doing?" But Jessica ignored him, her eyes locked on mine. "So what's it gonna be, Linda?" she sneered. "Give us the house or kiss your fortune goodbye." The room went dead silent. And then I smiled. Not a soft smile, a slow, dangerous smile that made Jessica's confidence flicker. "Oh, Jessica," I said softly. "You really should have checked that drive before you came here." Her smirk faltered. "What?" I stepped closer, my heels crunching on shards of broken glass. "That's not my financial data," I whispered. "That's yours." Her eyes widened in horror. "What, every dirty little secret?" I continued, my voice low and lethal. "The hidden accounts, the stolen credit cards, the little fraud scheme you've been running behind my son's back." Mark's head snapped toward her. "What?" Jessica's face went pale as snow. "She's lying. Mark, don't listen to her." "Oh, he's listening," I said, pulling out my phone. "Because in exactly 60 seconds, the cops will be listening to. I already sent them a copy." Jessica's breath hitched. You didn't." I smiled wider. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." Sirens wailed in the distance. Jessica dropped the USB like it was on fire. Her hands shook violently as she backed toward the door. Mark stood frozen, his face a mask of betrayal and rage. "Jessica," he whispered, "tell me she's lying." But Jessica didn't answer. She bolted, straight out the door, into the snow. Just as red and blue lights lit up the night, I closed the door slowly, my heart pounding in the quiet aftermath behind me. Mark collapsed into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "Mum," he whispered brokenly, "what have I done?" I stared at him for a long moment, then walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You let the wrong person into your life," I said softly. "Now you have to live with that." The sirens grew louder, flashing lights painting the walls. In blue and red dot, Jessica didn't make it far. The cops dragged her back, screaming and spitting like a wild animal, her hair tangled, her makeup smeared. "Mark, Mark," she shrieked, her voice breaking. "Don't let them do this. Tell them I'm innocent." But Mark didn't move. He sat at the dining table, his head buried in his hands, broken. I stood by the window, calm, watching as they cuffed her and shoved her into the back of the squad car. Her eyes met mine, one last time through the glass. Pure hatred, but I didn't. Flinched because this was just the beginning. When the cops left, the house fell silent except for the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Mark lifted his head slowly, his eyes hollow, his voice barely a whisper. "Mom, why?" I turned toward him, my expression unreadable. "Why, what? Why did you destroy her like that?" I tilted my head, a faint smile curling my lips. "I didn't destroy her, Mark," I said softly. "She destroyed herself. I just opened the door." He stared at me, searching for something, regret, anything. But I gave him nothing, because there was none. Finally, he spoke again, his voice shaking. "What happens now?" I walked over to the table, picked up the empty wine glass, and set it in the sink with a soft clink. "Now," I said calmly, "you leave." His head snapped up. "What?" "You pack your things and go," I said, my tone icy and precise. "Tonight," he looked like I'd slapped him. "Mum, you can't." "Oh, I can," I cut in sharply, "because this isn't your home. It never was. It was mine. And you made your choice the moment you let that woman shove me into a freezing garage like trash." Tears filled his eyes. "Mum, please. I'm your son." I froze for a moment. Then I turned slowly, meeting his gaze with a look so cold it made him flinch. "You stopped being my son the moment you chose her over me." He stood there, trembling, his lips parting like he wanted to argue. But in the end, he said nothing, because he knew he had no fight left. He gathered his coat, his keys, and walked to the door like a man walking to his own funeral. When the door shut behind him, silence swallowed the house whole. I walked to the window and watched as he disappeared into the snow, his figure growing smaller until it was gone. I turned back toward the table, the wreckage of Christmas dinner. The shattered glass, the abandoned gift stand smiled, because finally it was quiet. Finally it was mine again. But here's the part no one knows, the part that makes this story more than just a Christmas scandal. The house, the money, the trust fund, none of that matters, because while Jessica rots in jail and Mark sleeps in some dingy motel, I'll be on a plane, one-way ticket, first class, to Paris, where Richard is waiting, and where, as of this morning, I'm officially the majority shareholder of the company Jessica thought she was stealing from. I picked up the final gift under the tree, a small red box with a gold ribbon. Inside was the key to my new penthouse overlooking the Eiffel Tower. Held it in my palm, feeling its weight, and whispered to the empty room, "Merry Christmas to me." Before you go, tell me in the comments, was Linda right or did she go too far? And don't forget to share which country you're watching.